Hello, everybody. My name is AlaynaGonzalez, and today I'm going to be giving my final game project presentation, which was on my game called Little Red, and this game is an item collecting game. So, a little bit of the game concept that went into creating my game. So, the genre of my game was horror adventure, and I was also heavily inspired by just a Little Red Riding Hood folktale. I wanted to create something that was inspired by her, but obviously have a little bit of a twist on this. So my character's name is Little Red, and she basically has to traverse through a forest and make it home. But obviously, there's not really like a big bad wolf in this story. She kind of just has to explore the forest, and there's a lot of different twisted things that she'll come across. And then to also complete the game, she has to collect 15 different eyeball-shaped relics to reach like the ending. And this was the mood board that I created a couple weeks ago that inspired my game a lot. Obviously, I was inspired by a lot of darker aesthetic games that still had a really cute main character. I think that my main focus was creating a really cute character, and then my items and environment itself was supposed to be the dark part. So I also wanted to create a darker ambiance as well, similar to games like Alice Madness Returns and Lacey's Wardrobe as well. And then obviously my color palette was really dark to be able to accompany this. So I chose a lot of dark grays, blues, purples, because I thought that those really accompanied Little Red herself as well. So to go over the story and narrative structure of my game, um, obviously Little Red, the whole purpose of the game is that she's lost in this forest and she has to traverse through 3 different areas to try to find her way home. Um, but I also wanted each area to seem more dangerous than the last. The main first forest doesn't really seem too intimidating, but as you progress, things start to get more and more like scary, and I guess you could say mysterious as well. And there's also a bunch of different paths that you can go off and wander onto to find different items in the game as well, or just little cute, um, little cute like Easter eggs as well. And this was obviously my final character design. Her name is Little Red, and she's a girl that is trying to find her way to what she believes is her grandmother's house, similar obviously to the original folktale of Little Red Riding Hood. She has bright red hair, and green eyes, and obviously she's wearing a red dress and some white shoes. I kind of just wanted this to obviously help people remember that her name is Little Red because obviously bright red hair is pretty unique. So I thought that those details just help the player know exactly who she is, and I just thought it was like an interesting way to kind of go off of Little Red Riding Hood without looking too much like the original character as well. So this was my environment design and map. So this was the original design that I drew in Procreate. I really just took this and obviously made my game um, completely based off of this. But I think that I added more details than what you can see here because in my final design, there ended up being flowers and I added more terrain and I used the Pro Builder tool to make a bridge, and I also used Pro Builder tool to make another structure in the cemetery, and then I used the terrain tool to create caves that you could search and a hill over here, where Little Red is right here. So obviously, you start here in the Fey Forest, and I created paths that you follow to eventually lead you into the cemetery, and then the bridge led you into the Vale of Tears, which obviously also ultimately leads to the ending, which is home, but not really home. And then obviously to go more into my gameplay loop diagram. So the whole point of my game is that I want the player to explore different areas. You start off in the beginning and you can follow paths, but you quickly realize that if you look or if you keep going off of the path, you can collect eye items, which are, I just called them icons. But once you collect them, there's a coin counter in the top left that tells you that there's actually 15 different eyes that you can collect. And once you collect all of the eyes, the last one will be in front of your home actually. You'll achieve the ending and you'll officially seem to have finished the game and, go home. And then these were my environment assets that I used. The environment objects that you see here to the left are items that were commonly replicated, and I used them multiple times. These are the textures that I used. The first texture is the texture that I used for the Vale of Tears, or like the lake. The texture next to it was used for, I think basically the whole majority of the map that isn't like the Vale of Tears or the cemetery. This was just like the default texture that I used. And then the brownish one is the texture that I used for the graveyard. And then the purplish one is the one that I think I used for the caves. Yes, I used for the caves and like the mountain texture or mountain terrains that I created. And these larger items, this statue was the item that you see at the very beginning of the game. Usually these items were only used once or twice. The lamp I replicated a couple of times. This is the bridge, the white thing underneath of the statue. This was the door to the cemetery, and then this fence right here is the fence that I used for the cemetery as well to kind of like surround it and make it feel more like an actual cemetery. And then the sound and music that I used in my game, obviously I wanted to create kind of like a scary and brooding ambiance. So here you can see that I found in Unity some atmospheric horror music, and I kind of wanted it to pick up at certain points of the game, so I created different audio zones that once you step into, the music gets a little bit louder, or the music kind of changed and picked up and sounded a little bit more creepy. But at first, I wanted it to just kind of seem like unnerving. And then the audio here to the left was what I used as the audio pickup sound. I kind of wanted it to be kind of loud and startling for the player because I didn't want to sound cute. I wanted it to sound kind of scary, and that's why it kind of sounds like I would describe it as like a cup falling on the ground. I think that really adds to the ambiance as well. And here are some existing game precedents that I found. I've actually played all of these games myself before, and I was heavily inspired by these games when I actually made my own game. Rainbow has kind of like the same aesthetic where it seems really nice and cute at first, but it obviously, just from this poster, you can see goes really deep, dark, and scary quickly. Lacey's wardrobe, the same thing as well. It starts off really nice and cute, and obviously the game character design is really cute as well, but things take a dark turn as you find out that Lacey is actually being stalked by somebody, and yeah, things get really dark, and I wanted to kind of take inspiration from that as well. And Alice Matters Returns kind of, I would say, does the same thing, but kind of in a different way because she does start off scary, but then things actually turn kind of cute, and she goes into like this made up world that she creates in her head. But then she'll switch between that and reality, and I thought that was really interesting as well. And obviously, the character design in this game was another big inspiration of mine. And then here are some in-game screenshots that I took. I really liked this specific angle because I just felt like my forest looked so full at the very end. And then this was the top view, so you can see the 3 different sections. The forest takes up, a good chunk of the first half of the game. The cemetery wasn't really like a huge part, but it shows that things can get, start to get more scary. And then you end with like the Vale of Tears, and then obviously you can see the house in the upper left corner. And yeah, you can just see how like kind of took direct inspiration from the map that I created a couple weeks ago as well. And yeah, I'm just really excited with how the game turned out, and I think that it was just a really great learning experience. Thank you guys so much for listening.